Hi, I'm Barb McFadden and you're in the Trent Valley Navigation venue. These rooms are in the Boyd building and they're available to you, but right now we have a gorgeous selection of 23 vintage wedding gowns on display, going from 1889 to 2004. This is one of my favorite gowns. It's new to us this year, and people say, oh, these brides were so tiny. Well, when you were 17 or 18, you were tiny too. But anyway, this is a 1959 gown. It's very, very stiff, and actually she had a hoop that she wore underneath it to keep the gown standing out, but it is a beautiful, beautiful gown. So that's 1959. This gown is very interesting as well. It's a 1920s flapper gown, a handkerchief lace bottom. It's up and down, very loose, and her bridal veil, but it had leaves and little flower buds and twigs. I call her the woodland nymph. And loads and loads and loads of veil. It went around and around. And she had a huge bouquet of flowers. She was such a tiny little thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful gown, my woodland nymph. Of course, they didn't wear a wedding gown once. So you had to have something that you could wear to a party, or you could wear to someone else's wedding, like you take the jacket off and put a stole on. Not these. The early gowns were wearable again and again. This is 1920s, this is late 1950s, and it's totally synthetic and lots of material. During the war years, you could not have a lot of material for a wedding gown. You could only have a 7-inch zipper. After the war, as much as you wanted. A lot of lace, a lot of little sequins, sparkle, and lots of synthetic material. And she is 1950s. This is quite a contrast. This gown, very simple, cotton, crinkle cotton, you all remember crinkle cotton, and the big sun hat. This is 1970s. Very, very simple. It could be just a summer gown. And this gown is our newest gown. It's 2004. It's absolutely gorgeous. Strapless with a small shawl and rhinestones, and then falling straight down. 1952 gowns. This is the bride, of course, and a very tailored jacket, which is lovely, and her maid of honor and her bridesmaid. And these 3 gowns were given to us about 2 years ago, and now they're out on display. Certainly you didn't have to wear a white gown. This is 1980s, and it's satin, it's covered in little pearls, got a big bow at the back, and she's quite lovely. By contrast, the little girl beside her, this is 1870s, little cotton gown that came from Quebec, and that's our oldest gown. And it's cotton, all hand stitched, and it's really quite amazing. A little bit of silk on the yoke, and the rest of it is cotton. Blouse in front, which was very popular, comes and goes, and she's lovely. This is our art room, the Sheila Boyd art room. She was a teacher, so she taught in this room, and every month she had a new art show. So we do the same thing. Every month we have a new art show in here. This month and into January we'll have Louise Plant and her quilts, which are beautiful. Usually we have paintings, but next month is rug hooking. So we're going to have rug hooks in here, and they're beautiful. That is Dragonfly is absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, and so we set up, because of the display in the main rooms, this is a Victorian table, the way it would be set back in the 1880s. And this set of dishes were Sheila Boyd's last dishes for the Boyd family. This gown is quite interesting. It always reminded me of Diana and her wedding. It's huge, and it laces up the back, and there is a zipper as well, but the lacing makes you think it's back in the 1880s. And it's brocade. It's very, very beautiful. But the groom picked this out for her, and the wedding didn't last, or at least the marriage didn't last. Anyway, it's quite something. It reminds me of drapes. Contrast, this of course again is late 60s and very, very plain, very almost hippie, with the daisies and the fine little pearl beads, and again the beautiful train, but very, very straight and very, very unflattering, but at the same time a very beautiful gown. And all of these gowns have been donated to us, as I mentioned, and it takes a lot of work to look after them, but they are lovely. 2024 we received the Kawartha Lakes Heritage Award for 25 years. Our building, or our museum, is 25 years old, and the award was for 25 years. This is a special display, but this whole building is very special. It was built in 1889, and this was the Boyd Lumber Office, and now it is our venue for different activities. Is the wedding gowns is a special display, and there'll be a special display after this one. Of course, there's the Heritage Museum, which is next door, but it's now all one building. I'm showing you the earliest wedding gown we have, 1889, and this is silk with velvet. The silk is disappearing, of course, which it happens, but I put with her 1960s mini wedding dress and another wedding dress from the 1960s. So there's the two different styles that the women were wearing then. This was a winter gown, it's velvet, and this, of course, was a summer gown, very polyester and very mini. So as we are a volunteer organization, getting these gowns ready for display is time-consuming. They all have to be steamed out, and they are kept in acid-free boxes, and so they're not in the sunlight anymore, and they are looked after and cared for, and one or two volunteers that I can call on that know how to handle these delicate fabrics and help with the display. It's really nice to have them, but it is a big job, and days and days and days. Thank you for coming to the Boyd Heritage Museum, Trent Valley Navigation venue rooms, where we've shown you these beautiful gowns. Now I'd like to introduce you to Sue Raskson, and she is our secretary, bookkeeper, and everything else.
Basically, I'm the general person. Hi. I'm sure Barb has mentioned the size of these rooms, and that we are trying to build a reputation for quality along with history and heritage. This is new for us. We're a historical building and a heritage. We're a nonprofit organization. So any of the monies that we make or raise from our several events goes towards keeping this building in really good shape, including the outside. As part of the Kawartha Lakes culture and heritage movement, which is very big here, it seems to require or demands us taking advantage of our location. We're right by the Trent Severn waterway, lock number 32, which all you boaters will know where that is. We are building this building, this half of the building. The other half is our museum, which is really worth seeing. And we are doing now, as you've seen earlier, exhibitions as well as renting of space. We're looking to rent for any variety of reasons, from being a birthday party, a celebration of life, smaller weddings, club meetings. We've had wellness people in here. The Truth and Reconciliation people have been here. artists and artisans from all over the area have been here. It's a cozy place. It's open to anybody. We're going to be starting up our Heritage Cafe in the front room, where you can come and sit down and have a lovely cup of coffee or tea and a cookie, and look at our reference library that is just phenomenal in there, with ancient books. We just had a professor here from England that just spent a couple of hours going through these books. We have a book sale on that's on almost every single day of used books, and that gets people coming in and out the door. We have our events that we're planning. We've just finished our 2024 event schedule, which puts something going on pretty much every single month throughout the year. I'd like to thank our volunteers that help us with our operations here. They're incredibly hardworking and have great imagination to help out with any events that you might want to plan. Being a nonprofit, as I've said earlier, these volunteers are vital to our existence, basically. Anytime that you'd like to drop in, please come in. We'll make you a cup of tea, and you can see what we have going on here. As I've mentioned also, our schedule of events for 2024 is got something going on every single month, so you would have to come every single month, basically, to catch everything.
I'm Emily Beal. I'm co-executive director here at United Way for the City of Kawartha Lakes, and I'm excited to introduce you to some of our staff and volunteers and talk about the different projects that we have going on here at United Way, some fundraisers. And first up, you're going to be able to hear from Paul Murphy, who's our board chair.
I've been a member of the board for just over 3 years and the board chair for just over 1. I find working with the United Way for City of Kawartha Lakes a very rewarding and meaningful work that I do with them. It started as a Crayola employee over 15 years ago when I joined Crayola. Crayola has had a partnership with United Way of City of Kawartha Lakes for over 3 decades. And when I joined Crayola, there was a real fostering of giving culture within Crayola, and our partner with being United Way was one that I got involved with right away. And at the beginning, it was just connecting with their events, some employee fundraising. But what it really did show was how much impact that United Way for City of Kawartha Lakes had in the community that we worked. So just over 3 years ago, I decided to get a little bit more involved and join the board. And the team, both from the employees at the United Way for City of Kawartha Lake, as well as the board and the volunteers, are fabulous. Their passion, commitment, and dedication to this community is second to none. And the work that they do is phenomenal. From working with their agency partners in the community and really helping out where the need is required. Yeah, and so one of the other impacts on the community is around food security. And it started many years ago with a lot of community garden beds throughout the region. And it has grown into what is now Edwin Bidney's Community Farm and Education Center. And this is a fabulous endeavor that is producing over 20,000 pounds a year of fresh produce into the community. And I'm going to now introduce one of our coordinators, farm coordinators, E, who is fabulous and is going to take you through and describe a little bit more about Edwin Bidney's community farm.
3.5 acres, and we grow everything from apples to zucchini. So we have an orchard, and we have raised beds, we have in-ground plots, all requiring different pruning needs and different watering needs. So there's lots to take on. Yeah, so in the winter we start our planning. It's actually a collaboration between United Way staff and Fleming College, because they have some great professors there in the Sustainable Agriculture program. We also hire a student from their program to help in the farm, and they're also involved in the planning. So we'll use data that we've collected from our agency partners that receive produce to find out what produce items went over well in the previous season, what things didn't get received as well, and then we'll start there to plan the crops that we're going to grow so that we know that we're growing things that people are actually enjoying and are going to eat. After that, we try to coordinate some community events to plant or get the students from the local high schools and from the college to plant out the garden in the spring. This year we are excited to welcome back the City of Kawartha Lakes Summer Camp, as last year they joined us for 8 weeks and took part in a number of different learning opportunities. So they learned about sustainable agriculture, where food comes from, how to grow food. They got to design their own raised beds, and then they got to take some produce back to camp with them to make for lunch. So we're going to be continuing that project. We also have a new project starting this year, partnered with Community Care and with BGC. So we're going to be doing a soup project using the produce from our farm and using volunteer and staff labor from BGC and Community Care to turn those products into frozen soups that will be distributed amongst the community. But we can't do that just on our own. We do need some support from community members. So if you'd like to come by to help volunteer in the farm, we could use some help to harvest or plant or weed if anybody wants to do that job as well. Our harvest season is almost all season, rather than if we were just growing a singular crop that we would harvest all at once and ship it out. So we're always harvesting, and then we try to do our best with succession planting, so getting something in to the ground as soon as one crop is out. So harvesting happens all season, and it's quite fast-paced as we need to move that fresh produce out to our agencies that are going to then distribute it. So typically the harvest starts in the morning and is done in a few hours, working as a team together to get the job done. And then our agency partners will come to pick up the produce late morning.
We have to remember that food isn't the whole story. A holistic approach is necessary, and we do that at Edwin Binney's Community Garden. We've incorporated food literacy into the planning, the development, and the day-to-day operation here. So we provide food to people, but if they don't necessarily have the resources to make use of everything, or they don't know exactly what to make out of the produce that we're giving them, then it doesn't have the same effect. So we provide recipe cards with easy meal planning in all of our food programming. And we also welcome people on site, kids, youth, seniors, adults, whomever, to come in and experience hands-on experiential learning workshops. And we've also sort of dedicated our colorful beds at the front of the property to be an academic learning space. Kids in particular are really attracted to that area because they're colorful. They're a great teaching tool. So we planned them out this year to incorporate native plants, pollinator plants, and we have a sensory garden area as well, which includes fragrant varieties, really visually appealing plants, as well as tactile plants too. For our network of long-term donors, partners, and volunteers. But as food insecurity worsens, the purpose of our project really increases. So we need all the support we can get in terms of people's time, energy, and expertise as volunteers, or through donation dollars, to ensure that we can continue the momentum that we've generated in helping to impact people's food budgets and increase nutrition. The more support we have, the greater our capacity is to be able to continue to provide fresh produce to community agencies and food programs free of charge. Well, we've now got a coop house in the works, which will really help to extend our growing season and allow us to have more produce available in the spring and fall seasons. But we'd also really like to create a dedicated sensory garden area, and maybe also create some taller raised beds at the back of the property for people with different mobility needs to be able to access. But in line with that, we'd really like to make the whole garden more accessible so that all people can enjoy the space. And that would include putting in some walkways from the gated entrances to all raised bed areas. But there's so much that can be done here. The possibilities are really endless. I love to dig the potatoes. It's so fun, and you really get dirty. You have to get in there. It's kind of like a little scavenger hunt.
It's all fun for me. I think what I most enjoy, though, is that community piece where we're not just growing food to be sold in grocery stores, but it's actually going to people who need it, and there is a deeper purpose to what we're doing here on this land.
If you are somebody that would like to learn more about growing your own food but don't have the space to do so or the confidence yet, please stop by the farm anytime or reach out to myself and we can have you visit the farm and learn how to grow food and support the community.
So this is Chantel Ingram, other co-executive director to myself here at United Way for the City of Kawartha Lakes. We're going to talk about what United Way does in the community. What is our role? So ultimately, United Ways play a big role in bringing together different community partners, government, social service agencies, as well as people within the community and other stakeholders to be able to meet the needs of people in the community and best serve them as we can. So we're also involved in advocacy work locally at the municipal level as well as up to the federal level. We particularly focus on poverty reduction work and advocating for best practices and methods for that. Locally, United Way for the City of Kawartha Lakes is a funding agency, so we provide funding to different client-serving agencies in the community that are directly working with people within Kawartha Lakes, but also in Haliburton County as well. And so what we do is we have two different granting streams. We have our collaborative matching grant, and we also have our community capacity grant. And it's intended that both of these grants will help our local agencies to be able to meet the needs of their clients, whether that's immediately or for longer term outcomes. But the purpose for us is that these grants are able to serve people based on the local poverty reduction strategy and the recommendations that came from that. So it's important that we are focusing on agencies that are helping with food security work, emergency housing, child and youth mentorship, senior care and socialization, and things of that nature.
Yeah, and it's a very, very challenging but rewarding work. It's rewarding to be able to provide agencies with the funding they need to respond to urgent and emerging needs in the community. For example, we've provided funding so that one agency can provide grocery gift cards to their clients, which allows them to respond to food insecurity needs right away, help them get them through till they're able to be able to pay for their groceries on their own. Another, for the local shelter, we were able to provide funding so they could start up a bike share program, which allowed their clients to borrow a bike to get to a doctor's appointment, or even something as simple as visiting friends. Another really rewarding part of our work was, especially for me, to be part of seeing Edwin Binney's farm, Community Farm and Education Center, start from an empty field and turn into what it is today. And the work of staff, volunteers, local community members, businesses that sponsored, provided money, provided help, just to make this project what it is. It's testament to what can happen when community members, be it the agencies down to individuals, work together to make a project a success.
Great fundraising events coming up, which are taking place this winter. So we've got some that are great for families, some that are great for colleagues to be a part of, good for workplaces. So we've got Coldest Night of the Year, which is taking place here in Lindsay, Ontario. and that's a really great family-friendly walk. But then also in Omimi, we've got our curling bonspiel coming up in March, and you can put a team together with your friends, you can put a team together with your family, or bring out your coworkers and get involved. But it's also great for sponsorships for workplaces to take on a corporate sponsorship.